Hello, that was the study in D major from Music for the Complete Method for the Flute, Part 1, Opus 53 by Heinrich Soussmann. This is the A2 piece of the ABRSM Grade 2 Flute exam pieces from 2022. Let's have a look at the piece in general. We'll first have a look at the time signature. This says 2-4. 2 referring to the number of beats in a bar and 4 meaning crotchets. So we have 2 crotchets in a bar. Second thing we'll notice is the key signatures. Now you see an F sharp and then C sharp in the key signature, as well as mentioned in the title, it is in D major. Let's have a look at the sharps first. We have F sharp, so we have thumb on the left hand, first, second, third finger, and on the right hand, fourth finger and pinky. We're just playing this F in this octave in this piece. And for the C sharp, we are just using our pinky on the right. We want to make sure that we are still holding our flute still with the left hand, so we're not dropping, which affects our playing. If you're not familiar with the D major, you can refer to the scales book. I personally think it's very important to know the scale of the piece that you're playing, especially in a study like this where it references the scale a lot. So here is the D major. And you also notice, after we've looked at the key signature and the time signature, is the speed. Now this is 84 beats per minute in the crotchet, so this is the kind of speed we're aiming for in the exam. You can also choose to count in quavers, which essentially double the speed of counting, but you're still playing the same speed. Even though I'm counting faster, I'm still playing the same speed. The last thing you notice here at the start of the piece is scherzando, which is written underneath the first line. This means lively, so you want to keep this piece kind of a bit playful, especially with the staccatos. We want to really emphasize the staccatos in here. And also you notice there's a lot of short little notes in here, which also helps keep the piece lively as well. Let's have a talk about the form of this piece. This piece is in ABA form, or also known as ternary form. What happens is you have the A section happening, and then the B section comes in, and you replay the A section again. So the A section is the first 2 lines. It is made up of 2 phrases. Here is the first phrase of the A section. And comes the second phrase. So those 2 phrases make up the A section. Then you have the B section, which is a phrase that is played twice. So here's the phrase. It's played again, this time with a slight change to the end. So that was the B section, and then we replay the A section again. And the last phrase is slightly different to the first time we played it. It's slightly higher and ends differently because now it's the end of the piece. Now that was a quick overview of the piece. Now let's get into the technical details of the piece. When you look at the piece, you notice that the phrase doesn't start at the start of the bar. It instead starts at the end of the bar, on the second "an" of the bar. Now this is because the composer doesn't want the accent to be at the start of the bar, instead he wants it somewhere else. And in this case, it's the second beat of the phrase. So if you don't know, then at each bar, the first beat is always a bit louder than the rest. So if you're counting in 2 is 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Another example would be if you're counting in 3, you get pum cha cha, pum cha cha. The first beat is always a bit heavier than your second beat. So let's do a quick demo. If I use the first phrase and I'll demonstrate to you as intended. now playing the accent where the composer wanted, which is the start of the bar and the start of the phrase. If I do it at the start of the phrase, it sounds like this. Doesn't quite sound as nice and as flowing as the composer wanted. The second thing you notice is that there are quite a few staccatos in this piece. Now staccatos are little short bursts of air, what that we're playing through, and they are indicated by the dots above the note. So if I take bar 1 as an example, and I play them with just tongued, compared to if I play them staccato, I'm just using little short bursts of air there to make the piece sound more lively. Without the way, let's have a look at the rhythm of the first phrase. We started off with 2 semiquavers. They are half the length of quavers. And then we have 4 quavers following, and then a crotchet, which is 2 quavers, and then a quaver. So this is the starting rhythm. So if we count 1 and 2 and, so that is how we want to clap. Let's slow it down a little bit so we can hear ourselves counting that. So, and 2, and 1, and 2, and 1, and 2, and 1, and 2. So here's a demo of the phrase. Now this about 2 bars worth of crotchet rhythm is then repeated, just with different notes, and now we're playing bits of the D major scale. We're crescendoing up, not crescendo, going up the scale. And we still have the same rhythm here. Make sure that we play the D note with the first finger off our left hand, because it will make a clearer sound compared to if it's on and off. So that's the rhythm of the first phrase, and then on the second phrase you again start off with 2 semiquavers, and then you have quavers, 4 quavers, and then you have another 4 quavers. So that's fairly simple rhythm. And then on bar 7 you have a lot of semiquavers, and this time we're playing the D major scale on the way down. Kind of half stepping through your way down the D major scale. Now also note that there is they are tongued in 2s, so you're tonguing every other note. Until you get to the A down at the bottom. Ideally you want to play the whole A section in one phrase. However, if you think that you're going to run out of breath, you can take a breath halfway through, maybe at bar 4. So in here, or you can do it before the running down between bar 6 and 7. These are your 2 options. Let's have a look at the rhythm for bar 8, because this is slightly tricky leading up to bar 9, which is our B section. Again, if we count in quavers, we are doing 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Now this is in itself might not be a difficult rhythm to play. However, you need to consider you need to breathe before you start the phrase, the upbeat to bar 9. So you don't want to hang on for too long, otherwise your quaver at the 2 beat, the second beat of bar 8 becomes a crotchet. So you don't want to hear this. We don't want to hear that. We want to hear a very crisp transition. It's a quick, shallow breath. You notice now there is a crescendo at the upbeat to bar 9 and into bar 9. So we're playing from piano, slightly louder, maybe into MP. Kind of increasing and stabilizing once you reach the G. So the rhythm for the first half of the phrase is exactly the same as we've discussed in the A section phrase. The second bit is kind of a new rhythm. We've got 2 semiquavers and then a quaver, 2 semiquavers and then a quaver. So the 2 semiquavers and the quaver is the repeating theme, the repeating pattern of the B section, and also is used in the final A section as well. So with the counting, and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1. So also be careful with the tonguing. You are slurring the 2 semiquavers and then you have a staccato on your quaver. So the final A section starts off exactly the same as the first A section. We're still getting the same phrase, the exact same notes. However, there are a few changes here. The first thing is we're now playing MF. We're playing in mezzo forte. Now this means it's quite a bit louder than we were previously in piano, but not overly loud. Second thing you might notice is in bar 18, the 2 semiquavers are now slurred instead of staccato. Now this is one of the things I talked before, that we need to be careful about your tonguing in this piece. Now after the phrase, we have the ending phrase of the piece. Now this is a similar rhythm to what we had before. We're having the 2 semiquavers leading on to quaver, but instead of having more semiquavers following through, we're following with quavers. So we'll be counting in 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So here's a demo of that. Few things to note is, again, the tonguing towards the end, especially in bar 23. You're not staccatoing the quavers anymore. You're only staccatoing the last 2 quavers, but not the first 2. And that's the end of the piece. Well, that was the deep dive / tutorial into the A2 piece, the study in D major for the grade 2 ABRSM exam pieces. This piece is slightly more technically challenging. It's got a bit more breathing techniques. You need to take a lot of quick shallow breaths, but they're quite long phrases. You've got a lot of tonguing, you've got staccatos, you've got accents, you've got some dynamics in there, so it's an all-round more technically challenging pieces, but even if you're not doing it for the exam, I think this is a good piece for you to practice. Well, hopefully that was useful to you. I'll be putting up the rest of the pieces soon for grade 2. Give a like and subscribe if you like what I did here. If you want to put your own tips and tricks, or you want me to go over anything specific that you think I've forgotten, please feel free to put a comment down there, and I'll see you next time in the next video of Master of None. Bye!